So I was wondering, right? I've been posting all these pictures of all these NBA players flopping. It's funny that all these NBA players flopping have come in the last 20 years. Like you had Derek Fisher, Manu Ginobili doing it. I remember when it first started. That's when I first started seeing people flopping. 20 years ago almost now. And my dad, when he used to watch the NBA, made a big deal about it. But no, it fell on Depp's ears. A little bit. But what are the origins of flopping? When did flopping become a thing? Well, unlike Lebron fans, I actually had to do my research. And find it. So here's what I found. Grantland. An article dating back to almost 13 years ago, May 31st, 2013, by Jason Concepcion. It says flopping in the NBA, a history of nonviolence. And it goes on to say in this article, it's a tale that has grown in the telling. It was February 1976 and the Boston Celtics were hosting the Houston Rockets at the Grand Ole Boston Garden. At some point during the game, Houston guard Mike Newlin slid into the path of Dave Collins as the Celtics legend was driving strong towards the hoop. Collins brushed by Newlin, who acted as if he'd been blasted by a shotgun, flying backwards and drawing the charge. Collins played his case to the referee, but then, as to today, the ref wasn't having it. When Collins finally turned from the ref, what did he see? The cowardly figure of one Mike Newlin dribbling down the court while presumably holding an Oscar statue in his other hand. So Collins did what real honest-to-goodness men did back in the bloody days of yore. He Jadavian Clowney, the villain, turned to the referee and bellowed, "Now that's an effing foul." Flagrant foul. Collins was ejected. A blow for justice that will echo throughout the time has been struck. Celtics coach Tommy Heinsohn argued against Collins' ejection so strenuously that he was then ejected his own self. Green-blooded talismanic architect Red Auerbach, waiting in the locker room, greeted Collins with a hearty "It's about time." One imagined rose petals falling like confetti and knights on steeds blowing triumphal horns. Okay, you had to go that far. Let's get to the point. The flag painted in the battle against flops will be the high point of the increasingly moral decay NBA. The 80s will bring more flopping from Bill Laimbeer, from the warm Dennis Rodman. Then came the 90s and the 2000s, those dastardly Euros. Manu Ginobili, one of them. You know, he didn't really play in Europe, but I get what they're saying. With the strange consonant choke names and douchery 5-day beard stubble. What's up with all the adjectives in there? All over. Damn. Let's get to the point. Now look at us. A league bested by heads jerked backward in mock agony, flailing arms, cries of stimulated pain. If only we can return to the good old days when men were men. The days of Red, Collins, Heisen, and Russell. Well, there's a problem with this narrative. Those old Celtics Warriors stance on flopping is absolutely rife with self-serving hypocrisy. From 1954 to 1964, shooting guard Frank Ramsey played an integral role in the 7 Celtics championships, averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds in 24 minutes a game. He played with Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Tom Heisen, Casey Jones, and all the greats. His coach was Red Auerbach, who also quite literally wrote the book on flopping. In the December 9th, 1963 issue of Sports Illustrated, Ramsey, with Frank Danforth, penned an article titled "Smart Moves by a Master of Deception." All the dark sorcery is in there, described in professional detail, complete with teach-yourself karate style illustrations. Ramsey on drawing fouls on driving opponent, aka what Newman did to Collins. Drawing fouls chiefly requires the ability to provide good, heartwarming drama and to direct it to the right audience. I never forgot where the referees are when I go into the act, I should say. The more reliable eye catcher is still the pratfall. Why did I say pitfall? Still the pratfall. Particularly on defense, when everything else fails, I fall down. Luckily, I happen to be typecasted for the part because I have a particular running style. Back on my heels, my knees locked. It makes falling very easy and natural looking for me. I am beaten here. My man has a clear drive past me to the basket unless I step in front of him. That would be definitely a blocking foul on me. Instead, I shift my weight to get as much of my body as I can in front of him without moving my feet. If the official is anywhere behind me, it will appear if I am in front of my man. And at first contact, I fall down as if my man had charged right into me. With any luck, the foul deserved would be called on the other guy. Guarding players with the ball. When I'm guarding the player with the ball, eye contact occurs. I forget pride. Don't hold my position even if I'm sure I'm right. But if I forget and do my stand ground, I stand perfectly rigid, even flinching counts against me. Wrong. I ought to get this foul at right. But I should have not moved at all because that makes it seems if the defensive player is responsible. Right? Falling is always safest. Notice that I collapse at the least bit of contact. I react before the offensive man does, so the blame appears to be his. Ooh, this is a long article. And I will not read the rest of this. I'll be here forever. So, in the gist of it, flopping started with the Boston Celtics of the 50s and 60s. So this didn't start in the 90s or 2000s, what most people think. It started basically when the NBA started. I'm not going to read all of that. That's way too long for an article. Way too long. So, it's been going on for a long time. But let's skip ahead to 1997. The NBA ruled in 1997 that the personal foul of charging would not be called once the ball carrier was within 4 feet of the basket. The restricted arc is noted with a dashed circle. The rule made it pointless to flop near the basket. So that started in 97. Now, before we get to the 2012-13 season, I started noticing flopping around the 2000s. Like people like Derek Fisher flop all the time. Manu Ginobili flopping. I ain't even seen Steve Nash do it. Now, some others would say Lolly Divac. And the article that I read, some said Bill Laimbeer used to do it. Now, I got some idiots out there. We have some idiots out there saying that Jordan and Kobe did it. Now, I will say this about it. They got the most fouls. Jordan early in his career got the most fouls, maybe. Midway in his career, then started dying down as he got older. But I never seen him flop. Not egregiously. That's the people I'm about to go in on. But like I said, flopping was a thing in the 2000s. I was annoyed of it almost 20 years ago. It made the NBA not watchable because that's all you see. Manu Ginobili do his Euro step and then he flopped to it every time. But then in the 2012-2013 season, the NBA regulated flopping, saying any player who flops during the regular season will be first warned, followed by fines in increments of $5,000 for each successful flop during the season. The fines were increased to $30,000 for a fifth offense, but the suspension would also be considered. In the playoffs, players are fined $5,000 for the first flopping offense, $10,000 for second, $15,000 for third, $30,000 for fourth. Any player who flops 5 or more times could be suspended. Well, what happened to that rule? Huh? But I guess back almost 18 years, actually exactly 18 years ago, the NBA then announced it would impose fines on players who show a clear case of flopping, suspensions for repeat offenders. And like I said, however, the league did not impose any fines but continued to monitor the situation, which, like I said, they didn't do anything till 2012, and I didn't even think that worked. And even players complained about it. Rasheed Wallace, in a 2008 interview when he was on the Detroit Pistons, he said all that BS calls they hand out with Mike Callahan and Kelly Maurer. You've seen that curse word. Wallace said, you saw them calls. The cats are flopping all over the floor. They're calling that ish. That ish ain't basketball out there. It's all effing entertainment. You all should know that ish. It's all effing entertainment. So that was Rasheed Wallace in 2008. And I'm sure he's seen his share of flopping with Manu Ginobili in the 2005 NBA Finals. It says on November 28, 2009, Wallace, by the time he was with the Boston Celtics, again made sports news when he claimed that Hedo Turkoglu, with the Toronto Raptors at the time, duped the officials into giving Wallace his 5th technical foul of the season by flopping. He is quoted saying, they got to know that he's a damn flopper. That's all Turkoglu can do. Flopping shouldn't get you nowhere. He acts like I shot him. That's not basketball. That's not defense. That's garbage. What it is. I'm glad I don't have too much of it left. Commissioner David Stern complained about flopping as an offense against the game's officials, but the league has been unable to find a way to punish it or prevent it. Although Stern agreed with Wallace in principle, irony, the league fined Wallace $25,000 for the 2008 outburst because of the obscenities and $30,000 for the second. Another player who did not like flopping during his time in the NBA, Shaquille O'Neal loathes opponents who resort to flopping. He criticized Dikembe Mutombo, the 2000-2001 Defensive Player of the Year, in the 2001 NBA Finals, and Vlade Divac in the 2002 Western Conference Finals for the theatrics. Shaq, I'm gonna have to say this. You have very little room to complain because you got every call possible, especially that 2002 Western Conference Finals, but that's neither here or there. Shaq said he would never exaggerate contact to draw a foul. I'm a guy with no talent who has gotten this way with hard work. In a 2006 interview in Time, O'Neal said if he was NBA commissioner, he would make a guy have to beat a guy, not flop and get calls to be nice to referees and kiss ass. However, in the matchup against the Orlando Magic on March 3rd, 2009, O'Neal flopped against center Dwight Howard. Magic coach at the time, Stan Van Gundy, was very disappointed because O'Neal knows what it's like. Let's stand up and play like men, and I think our guy did that tonight. O'Neal responded, flopping is playing like that your whole career. I was trying to take the charge, trying to get a call. It probably was a flop, but flopping is wrong and use the word flopping would describe his coaching. Damn. Shortly before, this is it really started. This is the most egregious because everybody knows about this one. This one's been talked about for the last 72 hours now. Shortly before the Indiana Pacers were to take on the Miami Heat in the 2012 Eastern Conference semifinals, Pacers head coach at the time, Frank Vogel, criticized his opponents for alleged flopping. They are the biggest flopping team in the NBA. It'll be very interesting to see how the refs officiate the series and how much flopping they are awarded. Every drive to the basket, they have guys not making a play on the ball but sliding in front of the drivers. Oftentimes they're falling down before contact is even being made. It'll be interesting to see how the series officiated. Vogel was fined $15,000 for that remark. So he's talking about the Miami Heat in 2012. And like I said, in the last probably 25 to 36 hours, maybe not 72 hours, I have posted pictures of LeBron James flopping in his Miami days. I saw that Sports and Fitness Rant had posted pictures of LeBron flopping during his Miami days, and it was very egregious. The most funniest one when I think it was Tyson Chandler behind him, and he just flopped out of nowhere. But you know what? I didn't hear anything about that in 2012. But then again, YouTube wasn't what it was when it came to basketball talk like that. But still, I didn't hear that much from the fans. Didn't hear a peep. In May 2012, Commissioner David Stern said that flopping is a legit concern. Fines for flopping were introduced the following season. Brooklyn Nets forward Reggie Evans became the first NBA player to be fined for flopping. He was fined $5,000. The rate of violations slowed as the season progressed, an indication that players realized the rule was being enforced. There was 24 violations during the regular season, with 5 players receiving $5,000 fines for a second offense. So I guess he got his warning in the game November 21st, and then he got fined November 20th in the game against the Lakers. Once again, 2013 Eastern Conference Finals, semifinals, Chicago Bulls in the Heat. Bulls coach Tom Thibodeau accused LeBron James of flopping. And then LeBron James, of course, as he always does, I don't need to flop. I play an aggressive game, but I don't flop. I've never been one of those guys. I don't need to flop. I don't even know how to do it. So it doesn't mean too much to me. Tom Thibodeau was fined $35,000 by the league for his comments. Yeah, so you got coaches out there complaining about flopping, seeing it. Like I said, there's pictures of LeBron James flopping, but Thibodeau gets fined $35,000. Here's where it gets even more egregious. Remember this? James was seen winking after a flop in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Semifinals in 2011. Remember the peekaboo incident last season with the Lakers during playing the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round when he did that peekaboo? The picture you guys keep asking me to post it up, and I finally posted up today. Yeah, you remember that one. On May 29, 2013, 13 years ago to the day of this video being created, before Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers, James also denied that he's a flopper, but said that he recognizes flopping as an efficient strategy. Some guys have been flopping for years just trying to get an advantage. Any way you can get an advantage over the opponents to help your team win, so be it. So you missed the flopping. As of June 14, 2013, 8 players have been fined for flopping during the playoffs. Pacers, Jeff Pendergrass. Thunder, at the time, Derek Fisher. Knicks, J.R. Smith. Memphis Grizzlies, Tony Allen. LeBron James actually got fined, and Chris Bosh. Pacers, David West, and Lance Stevenson. Stern said the amounts of the fine were insufficient when the average player's salary is $5.5 million. And anyone who thought that was going to happen was allowing hope to prevail over the season. And I guess a couple of days before that came out, on June 7, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban announced that he was funding a study on flopping. He provided $100,000 to have biomechanics experts from SMU launch an 18-month study into forces involved in collisions during basketball. The goal is to investigate the possibility of using video or motion capture techniques to distinguish between legitimate collision. Mavericks forward Dirk Nowitzki did not believe the flops were a problem if a player was pushed and tried to sell a little to get a favor call from referees. So it leads off at 2013 from what I read. Okay. Let's get into after 2013. You know who really became synonymous with foul bait and flopping? James Harden. He averaged 35 points one season. I think that was his MVP season. And half of that MVP season, half of those points he got during his MVP season was foul baiting and flopping. Now skip to now. We had the likes of Trae Young foul baiting, which the NBA said they was going to crack down on. But did Adam Silver do it? Nah. Probably did it for a month. Because the biggest criminals when it came to that act was James Harden, still at the time, somewhere in his prime, in 2001-22. And, like I said, Trae Young. Now, outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which everybody wants to pin on it, there's other players that have been flopping. I have seen the likes of LeBron James flopping, which was quoted saying, "Oh, we don't work on flopping. We never work on flopping. We don't believe in flopping." Pretty much 10 years, think about it. It's been 10 years apart from when he said it the first time and then when he said it the second time in 2023 in this series against Golden State. When they said we don't practice flopping when they was obviously flopping. And LeBron James, for most of that playoff run in 2003, was flopping. Let's not forget about his flop. And I think it might have been game 2 in the Western Conference Finals against Denver when he just ran himself into the crowd, spilling that poor lady's drinks. Jokic flops. Luka flops. Austin Reeves flops. We've seen lesser players just flop out of nowhere. Shoot, Marcus Smart. They already mentioned Lance Stevenson because he was another one who did that crap. So, in conclusion of the history of flopping, I know they ain't gonna do it, but let's relax a bit. Let's relax a bit. Because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ain't the only one doing it. Wemby has done it. I've seen him do it. Just in this series alone, current series alone. How you let somebody 6'3" knock you down like that? Because it didn't knock him down. He thought he can get the offensive foul. But it didn't happen. I think he ended up getting a foul. One or two. Jalen Brunson. Half of his points, foul baiting. Flopping. Moving his head up in agony, just like Austin Reeves does. These guys know what they're doing. There is a school for flopping. It's called the LeBron James School of Flopping. And everyone that's a superstar or somewhat of an all-star has went to that school. And I have seen also, I know this fan base is going to hate me calling him out, but I also seen Stephen Curry early in his career used to do it. Not so much anymore. But we ain't going to forget about Joel Embiid either. That's why he can't stay on the court, because half the time he's flopping and hurting himself. So let's pipe down on saying Shai ruined the NBA. Because I do recall the NBA has already been ruined. It has lost its soul already. It lost its soul when it gave in to the analytics mania. It lost its soul a long time ago when everybody decided to jack up threes and, join each other on super teams, destroying the competitiveness of the sport. That was way before Shai even became a star, an all-star, an MVP. That happened before he was drafted in 2019. But anyways, that is the history of flopping for you. Franchise Sports TV with you. Like, share, subscribe to the channel.